My daughter and I are sitting on the couch, and it's one of those, like a horror movie. Like, you know how in a horror movie, like you're watching a horror show and all of a sudden somebody knocks at the door and it's like a real, like, bang, 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 like a real loud. Well, that's what happened. Immediately I knew I didn't want to answer the door because I knew exactly what was about to happen. You didn't have to tell me anything past that. I didn't want to answer the door, but I didn't have a choice. So I go to the door, and there's like 6 grown men standing at my door. And I'm looking at the faces of these men, and they're all teary-eyed. They're all, somber.
I do not know you, but I am your brother.
You do not know me, but I am your protector.
I will run into a burning building to save your life.
Though I do not know your name, I will take a bullet for you.
Though we've never met,
I believe in duty
and sacrifice of self.
Your family is my family.
Is my family. Your life is my duty.
What's going on, guys? Time for another episode on the road here of Behind the Uniforms. We are out here at Angel Armor in the beautiful state of Colorado, and I'm looking at the sign right here that's got sort of their mission statement, which is Angel Armor exists to protect and preserve the pursuit of liberty, life, and happiness for law enforcement and their families. We're just super honored to have these guys bring us out here, and I'm really just humbled to bring you the story of this woman. Why don't you tell everybody who you are?
My name is Dechia Gerald, and I am the widow of Officer Matthew Gerald from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
All right, so we were talking earlier, you shared your story with me, and it was, again, just such a humbling and touching moment. Thanks for having me in tears first thing this morning. I'm hoping you could walk everybody through. The whole idea behind the show, if you've never seen it before, is that we really want to humanize the men and women behind the uniforms. All of our emergency responders, our veterans, but there's so many untold stories of their spouses. We think about our emergency responders and our veterans for all the sacrifices that they make, but often in the media, the stories of their families get lost. So can you walk me through that day?
July the 17th, 2016 was a typical Sunday morning, and it was a beautiful day outside, but I woke up, all of a sudden out of a deep sleep, thinking I was late for work, but it was Sunday morning, of course. I go to my kitchen, I turn on my TV, start my, my pot of coffee. Let me backtrack just a second. Prior to this day, our Baton Rouge Police Department had been working 17, days with no days off due to rioting of a situation that happened a couple of weeks prior. So they were, our officers are exhausted, they're tired. We really hadn't seen, much during those 17 days. But he was a fresh cop on the street. He just graduated in March from the police academy. And, I was a naive wife sitting in the police academy thinking, thank God my husband got the day shift, thinking that, he would not be in as much harm's way as, the night shift guys would be. July 16, 2016, typical Sunday morning, I wake up, turn the TV on, I'm, brewing my coffee, and all of a sudden, breaking news, you have 3 officers down, and all these things are flashing in front of the TV, across the TV screen, and I immediately got sick to my stomach because I noticed in one of the clips, my husband's police unit sitting front and center of the store, but they blurred out the side of his police car where you couldn't see the number, but I could see through the blur on there. So I tried to text him to find out if he was okay, and I didn't get a response. So I knew in that moment that he was in the middle of whatever was going on down there, but I didn't think that he was, that close to the situation, but I knew he might have been blocking traffic or, working a detail. That's why he wasn't, responding back to me. Well, as I'm watching this unfold on the news, his parents are seeing it, my parents are seeing it, my siblings, my dad, everybody's seeing this, his friends, and my phone is blowing up. They're calling me wanting to know if I'm watching the news, have I seen it? Yes, have you talked to Matt? And no, I haven't. So of course everybody's on pins and needles and they're waiting for me to make a phone call to tell me whether or not, he's safe or not. In the middle of all that, my 3-year-old gets up. That was Matt and I's daughter. And she comes in the living room, and I'm sitting on the couch, and by this point, I have tears in my eyes because I'm watching, I know we have 3 officers who didn't make it because the news is saying so, but they won't say names because their families haven't been contacted yet. And then I know we have 2 other police officers who were wounded. So I'm sitting here and I'm praying, you know, God, please don't let that be my husband. Selfishly, you know, thinking, you know, so I text the only person's number that I had, which was another wife's, and she wouldn't respond back to me because I think she already knew, but it wasn't her place to tell me. And her husband was okay, and you know, I've texted a couple of the wives, and their husbands were okay. You know, I had seen things on Facebook that their husbands were okay. But I had a feeling in my gut. I just immediately had gotten sick. And the night before, you know, as crazy as it is, I'm gonna back up a second. You know, Matt had come home, you know, from working, I think he had worked a 12-hour shift, maybe a 16-hour shift that day. He was exhausted. And we were, you know, having a conversation, you know, he was telling me, you know, what happened that day. And, you know, he was like, but I can't wait, tomorrow's the last day. Like, you know, we're finally gonna go back to normal schedules. We don't have to ride, you know, too deep anymore. You know, he was like, everything's been calm and collected. He was like, it's been, you know, it was an easy day yesterday. And I looked at him and I said, babe, I don't want you to get comfortable. I was like, I got a bad feeling, you know, something, all hell's about to break loose. Like, just because it was quiet doesn't mean anything. Like, I feel like it's the calm before the storm. So I just told him, I said, please be careful, you know. Like, make sure you watch your high, watch your low, watch your back, watch your front. Like, you know, don't get comfortable, you know, thinking that everything's, you know, back to normal. Because I just got a feeling something bad's going to happen. And he was like, I got this, you know, don't worry about it. You don't need to be worried about that. You know, I'm highly trained because, you know, my military background. I went through the academy. I'm like, I understand that, but just please be careful. I mean, that's all you can say as a wife is just please be careful and just pray, you know, whatever. The next morning, he got up, you know, for roll call, and he got up at like 3:45 every morning. And he was like a very regimented, routine person. Even though I was sleeping, I knew what he was doing when he was doing it because I just know him and I know his routine. And as a wife, you always listen for the Velcro on the vest. So I heard him put the Velcro on, and I heard him take it off and readjust it because it wasn't fitting, you know, because it wasn't tight enough or whatever. I knew he got completely dressed because I heard him snapping his, you know, belt holder, you know, to his waistband. He came back, he kissed me bye, he told me he loved me, and he left. He kissed the baby bye, told her he loved her, and he left. So here we are, my daughter and I are sitting on the couch, and it's one of those, like a horror movie. Like, you know how in a horror movie, like you're watching a horror show and all of a sudden somebody knocks at the door and it's like a real, like bang, 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 like a real loud, well, that's what happened. Immediately I knew I didn't want to answer the door because I knew exactly what was about to happen. You didn't have to tell me anything past that. I didn't want to answer the door, but I didn't have a choice. So I go to the door and there's like 6 grown men standing at my door. And I'm looking at the faces of these men, and they're all teary-eyed. They're all, you know, somber. You know, we have the chaplain. We have men in suits because they're the, you know, special operations teams or whoever they are. And, you know, then one particular guy was in my husband's academy class. And I could see the hurt and the distraught on his face. And, you know, of course, you know, the natural thing as a person, you start screaming, no, you know, why us, why me, you know, that kind of thing. So I, like, completely, like, almost lose it in that moment, rightfully so. My 3-year-old daughter grabs me by my face and she says, Mom, you know, stop crying, what are you crying for, what's wrong? And I had to take a deep breath, I had to pull myself together, and I had to tell my daughter, look her in the eyes and tell my daughter that Daddy's not coming home, he went to heaven to be with Jesus. That was the hardest thing as a mom I ever had to do. Then I had to make a phone call to my 10-year-old daughter in Alabama. This happened the day after her 10th birthday. To tell her that she lost her stepdad, who she absolutely, you know, idolized the ground he walked on. You know, they had a love-hate relationship, and I say that she loved him, but she gave him hell because he was stepdad. You know what I'm saying? Like, she tested her limits, but she knew he loved her. So then as a mom, you know, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to raise 2 kids by myself? You know, this kind of thing. So fast forward, you know, 2 weeks. Well, fast forward a week. So this happened on a Sunday. By that following Friday, you know, we have the services. Well, that particular day, on the day of service, you know, we're in my bedroom and I'm complaining and just being a big, you know, big ninny. And my mom's like, cut yourself some slack. You know, you just lost your husband. You haven't slept but probably 3 hours this entire week. You know, like, of course you're going to feel like you're off. You know, that kind of stuff. My oldest daughter came in my room and, you know, was listening to us have a conversation, and she was wanting to say something, and I could tell. So I looked at her and I gave her the floor, and she's like, Mom, I don't know why you're complaining because you're pregnant. And I was like, girlfriend, like, stop. Like, no, ma'am, like, we're not having this conversation right now. Like, I can't, no. Like, that's virtually impossible, you know, that kind of thing. Like, don't say that. That's not cool to say, you know, whatever. And we just we just moved forward. We got through the, you know, his services and, you know, the whole 9 yards. Well, a week later, me and my 3-year-old daughter had a similar conversation. I thought she was talking to an imaginary friend, and I started listening to the conversation, and it was getting kind of very, you know, technical and whatever, so I asked her who she was talking to. She said, my daddy and baby Jesus. I was like, what are y'all talking about? My baby brother in your tummy. Well, I almost at that point, I'm like, okay, God, I don't know what you're trying to tell me, but this is not funny. Like, this is not a laughing matter. This is not a joke. Like, what else can you possibly give me? I can't take much more. Like, I lost my husband. I've already been a single mom. I can't raise 3 kids by myself. Like, surely this can't be true. Fast forward 2 weeks, ended up taking a pregnancy test, and guess what? Not only was I pregnant, but then fast forward 13 more weeks, and then I found out I was pregnant for a boy. Which my husband was the last boy in the family. Him and his brother were the only two. His brother had girls. So the Gerald last name was, you know, that was it, you know, with him. But now I have 3 children that I'm raising by myself now, without him.
You have been through hell and back. Your family has been through hell and back. There are, unfortunately, this is going to happen again to other families. What can you say to them? What piece of advice can you give to other moms and wives who end up in that same situation?
Well, unfortunately, it's a hard decision that you have to make, but either you can lay in a bed and you can cry about it, which rightfully so, you have the right to do that. And you have a right to mourn, and you have a right to feel the way you feel, and allow yourself to feel whatever you feel. But at the end of the day, you can either let it just end there, or you can be a voice for police officers to try to bridge that gap and to kind of get rid of all that hatred that's out there towards our first responder families, and try to be, you know, or to put a human person behind a badge. They're human like everybody else. They go to work like everybody else, but they do have a family, you know, at home as well. And, you know, the best advice I could give is, you know, just do what you need to do to help carry on your spouse's legacy. Do whatever you need to do to make yourself, you know, to help you heal, to help you get through the process.
What did get you through the process?
For me, telling my husband's story helps me tremendously. But even a step further than that, you know, I wanted to be a servant of my community. I was that before because I was a teacher, you know, prior to being a wife. But for me, I ended up, you know, becoming board members of 2 amazing foundations that I'm a member of. One of them, the Capital Area Law Enforcement Foundation, which was basically founded right after the 3 guys in Baton Rouge were killed. And basically the foundation, our mission is to put vests on cops, because believe it or not, there were officers out there who don't have the right equipment to be doing this dangerous job. And if they do have a vest, they're not good vests. They're not, you know, the best out there. So as a wife, if I can put a vest and help raise money to be able to put vests on, you know, police, or give vests to police departments, then I would love to do what I can as a wife to help somebody else not have to go through what I've been through. So that's one thing. The other thing that I'm on is Behind the Line Louisiana, which is another little foundation that I'm a board member of. And basically it's more or less a support group for first responder families to kind of have a network to go to when things are going bad, like a safety place where the families of police officers can go to talk about it, to kind of get, you know, feedback, to kind of keep everybody in the know of what's going on, stuff that, you know, we can't just let the regular community know, but the police family needs to know, you know, that their guys are okay. You know, when one of our guys get hurt, we try to do food chains to help provide, you know, meals where we can, you know, that kind of thing. Awesome. So for me, I try to give back, and I try to be a voice, and, you know, make sure that my guys know that I love them like they're my husband as well. Like I have 1 million police husbands, and, you know, in my community. And, you know, every time I go around, if I'm out in the community and I see one of my guys, the first thing I do is check to see if they have their vest on.
Absolutely. Well, we've got an incredible organization that's thrown some
Absolutely.
amazing support and resources behind these causes. Guys, thank you so much for taking the 2 seconds it's going to take you to hit the share button on this video. Getting these powerful stories out there, it takes a lot to share these stories. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks.